Okay, so we are recording this meeting as well. As always, I will share the slideshow, the notes that Bert's taking, chat room, and then yeah, slides, chat, recording, all of that. I'll post that to the website later this afternoon. I was also just mentioning a little bit earlier, if y'all are just joining, we're going to try and keep this to 1 hour, but we have a lot to talk about today. So if you do have to step out at the hour mark, which is at 2:00 p.m. Thank you, Stephen. If you have to step out at 2:00 p.m., feel free to. Again, you can check in on the recording or review the notes afterwards. So apologies if we do go over an hour today. And so thanks everybody for introducing yourselves in the chat. As always, feel free to share your video if your bandwidth allows. And then just chime in with any comments, questions as we go through as well. Shuffle this so I can see.
Mary Pearl, before we get started, I have kind of an unrelated question.
Yeah.
Well, part A, are we still using Slack?
Yes, Slack is still a tool that's available. The use of it has not been as frequent or strong in recent months. Just it hasn't been used on the state level. Coastal Prairie chapter still uses it heavily as their main source of chapter functions and communication.
Okay, and then a quick follow-up. Is there a Slack group for junior master naturalists?
There is not, and that could be created.
Okay.
Good question. Emily, I'm going to connect you with Bert, Bert Stivelkovich, and it's bert@coastalprairie.org, and then y'all can connect and get that started.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Mary Pearl, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
It's not connected to the meeting. I think you sent out an email about the DEI information and you wanted something by July.
Yes, I have that in the meeting's agenda today.
Okay,
and I'll drop that in.
Find that email.
Yes, ma'am. No worries. We'll drop that link in the chat here shortly,
Okay.
and then I'll probably resend that one out after a little while.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, so I'm seeing 1 o'clock on my phone here. Nobody has clocks anymore. I have just my phone as my clock. So we're going to get started with today. As always, introduce yourself in the chat. Feel free to unmute if you have questions and share your video if your bandwidth allows. As I've mentioned a few times, if you're just joining, we're anticipating this meeting going a little longer than an hour. We are recording, so if you do have to step out at the 2:00 hour mark, feel free to, and then you can catch up on the recording and the notes on things that you may have had to step away from. So we've got a bunch of things on the agenda, and we're just going to jump right on into it today. And
light in Josh's Bay.
I'm going to mute somebody. If y'all will go ahead and check your microphone status and mute yourself, just so that we can keep the background noise to a minimum. Michelle, I'm going to leave you unmuted so we can help with that bird that you've got in your background. Okay. So starting with the return to service, that's my background. He's out here. It's Mockingbird. He's super mad at me. There's a nest. Anyways, sorry, I'm distracted. Return to service guidelines. We sent an email out on Friday with agency updates for our return to service guidelines, covering the kind of overview of that one-page guidelines is, again, safety has always been our guiding principle for our operations. We have a responsibility for creating that safe and friendly space for all of our members, attendees, local partners. Some considerations that we are asking for with the new guidelines is continuing the use of virtual meeting platforms. as a method for communicating and maintaining trainings and events with your membership, or continuing to consider virtual aspects of in-person events, ways that you can incorporate attendees both in person and virtually. So always kind of keeping that tool in circulation and in use. And then the
We hope that
updated
that's a tool
consideration.
that you can continue to use going forward,
Yes.
pandemic or not. Like, we hope that that's a tool that your chapter can put into place for efficiency when needed.
Exactly. And then the final consideration for all TMN activities is for any indoor or outdoor activities that do occur in person. Masks and social distancing considerations are encouraged. There are no requirements. However, we are strongly encouraging for, again, just that safe and friendly environment for masks and social distancing to be considered. And Michelle dropped the link in the chat for where our COVID-19 response one-pager is. Michelle, do you want to cover these topics?
Sure. So the other notes that were in the updated guidelines on Friday is just another note that regarding vaccines, we're not permitted to ask members or even require members, the people we serve, the public that attend our sessions and events, we're not able to ask them whether or not they're vaccinated, just like any other authority other than a doctor's office, or this all pertains to HIPAA laws. And so, yeah, I think it was pretty plain and clear language in the information that went out on Friday. Texas Master Naturalists members or members of the public should not be asked about their vaccination status. Clear and simple. There should be no effort, including casual comments made publicly or privately, to discourage the use of face masks or any COVID-related safety precautions being considered. Those who wish to wear masks and practice COVID protocols should be respected and their wishes supported.
Okay. So again, if y'all have questions about that, you can address them in the chat, or we can address questions at the end today as well. Michelle, you want to give the update on regional WebEx accounts?
A reminder on the regional WebEx accounts, we're coming up towards the end of the month. And if you remember when we met with you last month, we had mentioned the capacity, the storage capacity on our regional accounts had reached capacity. We had to take down anything, we had to clean off the storage or what was stored there, the recordings, and take down what was there. And this will be our practice every month. So at the end of the month, or really the beginning of the month, I'll go in and we'll have to delete any of the recordings that are on the cloud there. And so just another note to chapters, a reminder to chapters to save, if you have recordings and you do record, save your recordings to your local machine, because we will have to clean those up each month.
Great. And I'm answering a question in chat from Stephen about checklist and screening forms required. So that is something that your local county AgriLife Extension office may continue to require. So you need to work with that county office for those programs for that answer. Additionally, the question from Julia, 2 questions about this. Maybe we require masks when we begin meeting indoors. We are not allowed to require masks at this time. We can include signage encouraging masks. We can set up the room with social distancing in mind. I think that's a smart practice to continue, is to continue to set up chairs and large spacings, but there are no requirements for masks or for social distancing from the state program. Again, if you are using a facility, as always, local facilities, if they have specific requirements as a private facility, then you'll have to follow their guidelines. And then Julia's second question was, may we require a limit on attendance as we deem appropriate? Michelle, what's your read on that one? I'm not understanding it.
Well, to me, a limit on attendance is social distancing considerations. So when you're limiting attendance, I mean, I interpret that as you are creating social distancing accommodations.
Yeah, I would work with your local, I would work with the facility that you're hosting that event or that meeting at. And then as always, check with your local county extension office if that's where you're hosting that event. And then lastly, Sue Ann asks, can we resume in-person meetings? Yes, you can resume in-person meetings. One of the things that I forgot I wanted to talk about is, you know, we've had a number of chapters already have started to resume in-person meetings, and they have they've taken that through a couple of different approaches. I had a great conversation with John O'Connell the other day. Their chapter, as they were looking towards hosting in-person meetings again, decided to start with the first step of hosting a survey of all their membership. Would you be interested in coming to in-person chapter meetings again? And then if not, would you want to join the in-person chapter meeting virtually? And so that way they had an idea of who would be willing to come, how many, if it was something that they could incorporate virtual, kind of a hybrid approach with virtual streaming for virtual attendees. So again, I think there's a way that we can take some of the lessons learned from the last year and the virtual tools that we've learned over the last year to one, increase our reach, allow people who may not be able to drive across town to get to the chapter meeting. They can now zoom in to that chapter meeting if they're not able to attend in person. And so I think that's a good thing to kind of, again, just take some of those lessons learned and bring them forward.
And to clarify too, the previous version before Friday's update of the guidelines allowed for in-person meetings where it was where you had the ability within your communities and local governments as well. So the ability to meet in person has not changed with this guideline, with this update.
Yep. Okay, can I move on, Michelle, or you want me to?
Yep, no, I'm good on WebEx.
I wanted to say a few things about the chapter websites. There are still no major updates here, but any requests that you have for website maintenance or troubleshooting, if you are hosting your chapter website through AgriLife's WordPress accounts, is still to go to first call at ag.tmu.edu. I have had a couple of questions from chapters asking about the Monster Insights plugin specifically. That Monster Insights plugin is new. And you can self-set up your own Monster Insights account using a Gmail account. I didn't know how to do it until I Googled, how do I set up a Monster Insights account? Google has all the answers. And so if you have questions about that, you can email me, but I would start first by going through the Monster Insights setup wizard. They have a great wizard, and then Googling how to, if your chapter is interested in that. And then fall training class information, our student worker Cameron Kelly is going to be sending this out later this week. And so we just wanted to put it on your radar that this is an email that you guys will get later this week, requesting fall training class dates and registration information so that she can collect that on the website and then create some social media blasts to help you guys out with the fall training classes. One question that we did get in response to our poll for questions from chapter presidents, a chapter president sent in this question: can a member who lives outside of our chapter's region or territory still train with us? The answer to that is yes. There are no rules on where a person living dictating which chapter they join. So they don't have to live within your chapter's single county or multi-county area in order to join your chapter, but they must do their service, their volunteer service within your dedicated county, region, or territory, counties, if you're single or multi-county. And we see this commonly in urban chapters where it may be easier for a member to attend meetings and trainings on this side of town versus having to drive all the way to the other side of town based off of where they work and they live. And as long as they're still able to continue to provide volunteer service within your chapter's designated territory, they're welcome to join your chapter.
So
Michelle.
update on, so past couple months, we've been talking about PINs. And I finally have an update on the Presidential Volunteer Service Awards. Those just became available for ordering this month. So everything that has been on back order, and it was a year. There were items on back order for a year. So for one reason or another, over the pandemic and office moves with the office that handles these, and then the presidential turnover, things are finally back up and running again. I have those on order. And so everyone that had submitted their members who had reached the 4,000 hour mark, those are all on order. And just a reminder, it's still about a 6-week turnaround time from the time I order the pins to the time I get them in and the time that I can get them back out to your chapters. So those are on order and they should be arriving pretty soon. So there's a question in the chat about who do we order pins from? So that information is on our website, and I'll drop the link here in a minute. Anything under 4,000 hours, you'll use the form on the website to order and send that to Olivia. The directions are there. Anything 4,000 hours and over, you'll send to me. So the same form, and directions are on the form there as well. I guess we should have put that link in there today, Mary Pearl. We talked about it and then didn't.
We did talk about it.
So anything 4,000 hours and over would come to me, and that's explained on the form. And I'll find that link here in a second.
Perfect. While she's doing that, I'm gonna get us into this month's TMN Tuesday, or this coming month's TMN Tuesday and Be the Change. Save the dates. We have 2 really great talks in the works for June. The June TMN Tuesday presentation is going to be on the 8th at 12 noon for an hour. It will be Sam Kieschnick as our guest speaker, talking about dragonflies and habitat management for dragonflies. Going to be a fantastic presentation. If you've ever heard Sam, he's quite the enthusiastic presenter. So you'll be fired up and ready to go when he's done talking. Registration is open for that right now, and Michelle will drop the link for TMN Tuesday in the chat here shortly. So again, registration is open for TMN Tuesday for Sam. Our Be the Change June 15th speaker, we are waiting on final confirmation, so I'm not going to share his name and information yet, but we've got a great speaker lined up, and we just wanted to make sure that we had final confirmation from him before we shared that. But we'll have registration up here shortly. Hopefully by the end of the day, today or tomorrow, we'll hear from him. And so that's our June 15th Be the Change. Now July 20th Be the Change. So July is Be the Change. We're going to take the moment to pause and reflect and see how our chapters are working with some of the information that has been shared so far, and see where we take the Be the Change series next. So as part of this, we have sent out a survey, and Michelle's going to drop that survey link in the chat as well. And that survey, Nancy, that you were talking about earlier, this is what it is. We emailed it on the 18th, so you might search your email box around the 18th. We're asking for one answer from each chapter. So if you'll internally decide who answers those questions, and then Michelle and I will take that information after June 4th. We're going to pull those reports or pull that information from that survey and move forward with preparing the July 20th Be the Change. One of the questions that we wanted to pause here today and ask you guys is, as leaders of your chapter, as your organization, what additional presentation topics do you need to best guide your chapter in this series and over the next 3 months of this series? So if there are resources that you have ideas or resource gaps that you see that you need to hear from specific types of speakers, please share that with us either now in the chat or via that survey. Okay. So again, the June 15th Be the Change speaker, we're waiting on final confirmation from him. And as soon as we have that, we'll send that information out. And then the July 20th as well. Great. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Christine. Okay. And then the Nature Reflections project is still live. Excuse me, I still need to make my video. I was supposed to make it yesterday and I didn't, and it was sunny and beautiful, and now it's raining today, so I have to make my video in the rain, but that's fine. I'm going to do it anyways. So next Monday is the deadline for our Nature Reflections 1 year later project. This is something that Michelle and I really wanted to have a 1 year later kind of reflection point. So please help us encourage your chapter members to take that short 1 minute video, even though I personally keep forgetting to do it. Please help us remind them to not forget it like I have. So just short videos reflecting on the benefits of nature, the Master Naturalist program, and those refuges that you found outside over the last year. Okay, and then license plate as an update. So June is going to be all about dragonflies. There's a reason why we've got Sam talking about dragonflies in June, is we're getting our license plate in June. As we have been told a couple of times that it is coming in June. We now have a date. We have heard that the press release goes out June 19th. That press release that's a Saturday or a Sunday, and the ordering on the online system isn't supposed to be live until the following Monday. And so we've got some email blasts once that date gets closer that we'll be sending out. But again, we have been told so far June 19th. I have a little bit of speculation, hesitancy, a little bit of pessimism from some of the delays in the past. So let's keep hoping that it's going to be June 19th. We do have all of the ordering information on our website so that y'all can have that link ready to go on June 19th. June 21st, I think, is the following Monday that you actually can order it. Michelle, any questions so far?
I've been able to catch up and respond to stuff, so.
Okay,
Not yet.
thank you. And then our virtual volunteer fair, we talked about this last month and you guys gave a resounding yes, you want a virtual volunteer fair this year. So we're holding August 31st and September 1st as our tentative 2 dates for our virtual volunteer fair. Michelle and I have it on our to-do list this week to get the call for proposals pulled together and get it ready to launch next week. So we will have that call for proposals for our virtual volunteer fair version 3, edition 3. Then we'll hold that event August 31st and September 1st. So hold those dates with us as we get that event pulled together. Okay. Then we're going to get into annual meeting and talk about annual meeting for a little while. And we have quite a few slides on annual meeting. So I'm going to pause here. Michelle, is there anything that I've missed? Okay. Okay. So a lot has changed in the last month, y'all. Since the last time we talked to you about the annual meeting, we were still very speculative and hesitant, and we have direction now, and we have I think we've got some great some great momentum behind this year's annual meeting. There's still a lot that is evolving, I know that the joke last year was that we were building the plane as we were flying it. In the virtual meeting, this is a whole new type of plane and a whole new type of build. So we're excited about this kind of constantly evolving hybrid event. But it's something to try. Why not? Let's do it. I'm optimistic, and Michelle helps to temper some of my optimism sometimes in a good way. But we will need your help. So this is where Michelle and I kind of want to just lay it. We've got probably 6 or 8 slides on the annual meeting. We kind of want to lay all of our thoughts out with you guys so that you guys can help to help finesse some of that direction that we're working in with this year's meeting. So how we've defined this year's hybrid meeting, how we define hybrid in my mind can be defined in a couple of different ways. How we're planning the event is to go with a fully in-person and virtual attendee option, with speakers presenting from both in-person and virtually. Speakers are given the choice in the current call for proposals whether or not they want to speak in person or virtually. And so that we can integrate a whole bunch of different speakers from around the country, around the state, in both of those formats. With this fully virtual or fully hybrid experience, we're seeing the need for additional technology and tech hosts, both physically in the room and virtually, so that virtual attendees have a go-to kind of help virtual host. We'll be recording the virtual sessions, and those will be available for both the in-person and the virtual attendees. So you can go back and watch other things that you've missed. We have a virtual attendee hub similar to last year's website, kind of the hub page that you go to, and we'll have some tech hosts that are going to help to engage those virtual attendees, and how does that look like, and what does the virtual attendee experience look like within the platform. And some of these, and the dots are questions and things that we're still trying to work through and figure through, and we don't have all the answers by far right now. And then again, just more of this, what is hybrid? There's going to be some things are going to have to be for in-person attendees only, like field sessions, and certain field experiences, or for certain parts of the conference are going to be in-person attendee only ability, just based off of honestly our capacity to put all of this together, and the technology behind live streaming and internet and broadband and all of that out in some of these field experiences. What field experiences are going to be in-person only, which ones not, all of that is still super tentative and unknown at this point. And then we've even toyed with the idea of having virtual field sessions, short videos, and what does that look like? And who manages that? That one's got so many more questions attached to it. And so we're going to start with what we can do and what we know is safe, and then build off of that. Michelle, anything on that one? Okay. So I've been sharing this planning timeline with you guys for a little while, so I wanted to show you where we were on our planning timeline. We have our call for proposals out now. We're planning on closing that call for proposals right now. We're planning on closing that on June 1st. After that, we take those proposals and we put them into we go through, review them all, make sure that they're appropriate for our conference, put them into an agenda, finalize our speakers and their in-person and virtual preferences, and get the websites and the agendas and marketing materials put together in June. In July, we get registration websites and more kind of background stuff prepared and put on the website, share the registration costs, share that final agenda with you, and sometime in probably mid-July. Our goal is always to meet our historic August 1st registration opening. We've kept it between August 1st and August 5th for the last 5-6 years since I've been here. Or I've been here 7, but for a while we've kept it right at August 1st. So that's our goal, is to open registration again on August 1st. September 1st, actually that's old. I didn't change that, Michelle. I was supposed to change that. October 1st is our project fair deadline, and our contest deadlines. And then our meeting is October 21st and through the 24th. And I'll talk about project fair because we're shifting that one just a little bit. Okay, so let's start with where we're at now, and then some of the questions of things that are still to come. So our call for proposals is out. Our deadline is June 1st. Please help us share this with speakers, those that you've heard or those that you want to hear. We cannot make a good agenda unless we have good proposals from speakers. And a good agenda is what drives our conference. It's what drives y'all to attend our Master Naturalist event, is good speakers, sourced from across the state, or further. So please help us to share that call for proposals. We've posted it on Facebook. We've emailed it out a couple of times. Please get that out there. And again, the best connection, I've had a few of you say, you send me an email and say, hey, what about this speaker? I know them or I've heard them. Well, great, invite them. Don't wait on me to try and forward that email on. Go ahead and forward that call for proposals email to that speaker that you're interested in inviting, and have them hear from you that you want them to be a presenter. That is the best connection for these speakers to come and submit their proposals. And then I'm going to walk through the contests and awards, these 4 right here, and I've got a slide on each of those. Michelle, jump in here if I'm talking too much. So starting with advisor awards, that is live now. That's on our website, and that's on that annual meeting website that Michelle dropped in there. Nominate your advisors. This is always an interesting contest where some years we have 50 chapter advisors all nominated, and some years we have a slim pickings. And we know that they work hard on your behalf, especially over the last year, as guidelines have changed and restrictions have been modified and over again. So please help us to show your support for your local chapter advisors, either your Parks and Wildlife, your AgriLife advisor, and nominate them for Advisor of the Year.
Yeah, so there's a, you can nominate a single advisor or a team of advisors.
Yep, and deadline for that will be October 1st.
And the slide says it's opening soon, but it's open now.
Yes, we got it opened after we made the slide, so lots of progress in the last couple hours. Video contest. So this is one that we wanted to ask you guys about. Our video contest originally was developed with the goal of collecting and encouraging chapters to create promotional videos for recruiting and for marketing. We've had anywhere from field experiences to project highlights, to anniversary videos, and even the nature reflection videos in 2020. But we had very few entries in 2020. And that's made us kind of pause and say, is this still a useful contest? Could you see your chapter creating these short videos in a way that you would want them submitted for this award? So I'm asking the question and I'm going to pause.
I think some people just have some trouble doing videos. I don't think everyone is as familiar with doing it as we would think. There are people who are great with videos, and there are just some people who aren't. And I know in my chapter, we don't have a lot of tech savvy people other than me. And yeah, I'm busy being the president.
You've got plenty on your plate. You could handle one more thing.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I'm seeing some in the chat that they're interested in doing more videos. So maybe a how-to guide on how to create videos would be helpful. Okay.
So someone asked what's the prize, and it's varied from year to year, but the prize is a project grant to your chapter, anywhere from $200 to I think we've been on up to $750 in the past. depending on the placement.
Okay. So just hearing some of the chatter in the chat, it looks like we'll continue with this contest. We'll open up the awards form later this week, early next week. And it looks like it's something that y'all are interested in. And we may even see if we've got the capacity to provide some how to build video, or how to use the technology that you already have, like iPhones and iPads, to create some videos and edit, and certainly can pull some of that stuff together to help share. Okay, and then Project Fair. There are aspects of the Project Fair from 2020 that worked really well with the virtual format, and we're going to keep some of those virtual aspects for the Project Fair contest. We're shifting the deadline. The deadline's going to be October 1st. And one of the things that we really we learned our lesson with the Project Fairs. We had those virtually presented last year, and they were so awe-inspiring. We recorded it and we shared that video, that recording with you guys. But we're gonna host the Project Fair presentations as the October's TMN Tuesday this year, because we want you to hear, we want you to encourage your members to hear what other chapters are doing, their highlight projects that they're entering into this Project Fair. Really, it was an awe-inspiring presentation last year from those chapters that entered. So we will keep the Project Fair. They will be virtually presented. There will not be poster boards, no physical poster boards needed for the Project Fair this year. And again, we really want to see how your projects have had to shift over the last year.
And maybe we'll figure out a way for attendees on the October 12th, a way for them to vote also.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, we can do that.
Panel.
Yeah, I like that. I never watched those shows, but wasn't the American Idol, wasn't there an audience vote counted in as part of the, okay, we can get there. Somebody else will have to be in charge of that part. Okay, and then photo art and media contest. Again, we're going to keep aspects of this contest virtually. We having the submission sent in ahead of time was very helpful. Having them sent via our website forms worked out really well. We've got some things that we're going to clean up a little bit, some lessons learned from last year, but we're going to definitely keep parts of that contest in the virtual world. We are still seeking a chapter to host the photo art and media contest. And so we'll be sending that request out over the internet, or over the emails in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, host and organize on behalf of the program.
Yep. And so organizing being the photo art and media contest chapter host would be receiving all of the photo submissions, making sure that they meet qualifications and what are they called, categories, helping to put material out there for the submissions. What else, Michelle? Judge's choice, making a judge's choice. Coordinating
awards and presenting awards to the award winners. Preparing a slideshow of the award winners to be given at or shown at the annual meeting. All of this kind of culminates with the annual meeting, and it could be probably Saturday night or Sunday with the of the annual meeting.
Yeah. Okay. Will the photo art and media still have a physical presence at the annual meeting? We're working on that. That's a question that we'd work with the host chapter. So here is our tentative agenda. These are ideas. And so we realize that this meeting is being recorded, and we realize that you guys are going to see the slide. So I've put this word tentative up here, really big red. This is the direction that we're going right now, and we wanted to get your feedback on this. So we're thinking that so last year with the 2020 virtual conference, we shifted the whole event up by 2-3 days. It was no longer a weekend-based event, it was a weekday-based event. And that worked for some and it didn't work for others. We're thinking of shifting this event up by a day to work with both our different attendee types, both in person and virtual. And we would start potentially on Thursday at noon. That's not supposed to, yeah, Thursday at noon and end Sunday at breakfast time. So starting Thursday at noon with a lunch, ending with breakfast on Sunday. The thought was that if we started with noon and a lunch, the president's meeting, our president's meeting for October, could be held that Thursday at lunchtime, October 31st. We could get that lunch sponsored. We could have a nice hour with you guys to both meet and updates before we get launched into the rest of the event. Having the president's meeting Sunday morning at 6:30 in the morning has always been difficult. It has been the niche where it has always just been, and that's just what it always was. But if we rearrange this, this gives us the chance to meet with you early and kind of work through the rest of the years, or the rest of the conference's agenda. So that's our thought, and our question there is, would moving the president's lunch to an in-person hybrid Thursday at noon work for your agenda, work for your calendar, your schedule? And realizing it may not work for everybody.
But in realizing if you're there attending in person, your travel may have to happen on Wednesday to be there in time on Thursday, depending on where you're coming from.
Yeah, how
And
far
if
you have to
you
drive.
are able to be there in person.
Okay. So I'm seeing some positive and a few that have some conflicts potentially, but go ahead and save that date for us, save that time period on your calendar. This is, again, just the direction that we're thinking that through and what we're working towards. And then the rest of the agenda, again, as we're shifting this slightly up, and I've got H&I for hybrid or in-person only. Friday would be all things technical sessions. So starting in the morning, Friday morning, registration opens first thing Friday morning. Technical sessions offered hybrid, both in person and virtually throughout the whole day Friday. We would host our keynote at the lunchtime on Friday, and that's a shift from what we've done in the past, but that would allow, by having it at lunchtime on a weekday, gives our working professionals an opportunity to come and our non-working professionals an opportunity to come. And that would work well for a Friday, possibly. Again, this is just the direction that we're going, and big tentative red letters. Saturday would be technical sessions, hybrid, field sessions for in-person on Saturday. The thought there is that traffic is less on Saturdays to get to those field sessions possibly, but parking could be more difficult. Again, things that we're trying to figure out and work through. Saturday late afternoon, evening would be the awards. We probably shift the awards ceremony up Saturday evening so that it's not super late at night on a Saturday night for those virtual attendees. And still giving us enough time that evening to enjoy company for in-person attendees. And then Sunday breakfast would conclude with the contest awards, and then plenty of time to travel home. So this is just kind of the direction that we're thinking. Michelle, are there any thoughts on that from y'all on the call?
One looks good.
Okay. But again, this is, I had to add one more word in there, tentative. Don't get this out there too far, but do hold the dates for us as we're kind of thinking. And then field sessions. So field sessions, and I still need to send that email. I have it in my inbox to send out, but I'm building it. We are building a local chapter team to evaluate locations and speakers for field sessions for in-person. Some of the things that this team that I haven't pulled together yet, but I'm working to pull together, we'll have to think through is some of these capacity restrictions and transportation changes. We will not be able to use hosted transportation and put 50 people in a small 12-passenger van like we've done in years past. We've tried. We can't do that this year. So what is that going to look like for transportation and physical sites? Some of the questions that we've asked ourselves are, can we include virtual attendees in these field sessions? And that's going to be very difficult with the current staff and technology that we have. Field sessions, as we're thinking through them, are the benefits of being an in-person registrant, something that's available for you as an in-person attendee. We are going to ask local chapters to help us to showcase these hidden gems of local field sites to traveling chapter members from outside of the area. We recognize that local chapters can go to these sites within their backyard, hopefully any other time of the year. And we want to open up these sites for those that are coming to the Dallas-Fort Worth area for maybe the first time or from a long ways out, to make these field sessions something that are available for those that don't live in that direct region. We do see the local chapters helping to lead the sessions, and again, just not necessarily attending them themselves, but helping to lead them and just show off their backyard, show off where they live. And then the note there is pre-recorded field session videos were a huge hit last year. They were a huge amount of work that those 5 chapters had to do to pull off those hour-long field session videos. And so while we don't want to discourage you guys from showing off your region with some cool videos, let's find a way that we can do that in more directed ways, like the project fair or for our video contest. So that's our, again, I'm just sharing our thought process with the field sessions. We're still pulling that team together. We have some great ideas of some places to go, and probably too many ideas and not enough time, or too many places to go and not enough time to see them all. But that's our thought process, is to pull that team together and then find those hidden gems. Okay, Michelle, I'm going to keep going unless you stop me.
Go ahead.
Where else will we need your help as chapter presidents, chapter volunteers? Here's where we know we're going to need volunteer help. We know we're going to need volunteer help moving in and moving out. Traditionally, that's done by local chapters, as y'all are close by and you're able to be there a day early. We know we're going to need help with a physical registration desk, as well as a virtual help desk of some sort, or a virtual desk, helping with technical questions on the back end, or why can't I hear the speaker, things like that. And then in-person help. Additionally, we're going to need what used to be titled room hosts is now kind of the meeting room support volunteers, those that are physically in the room helping to turn the lights off, keep time for the in-person speaker, get cables plugged in, things like that, or making sure that cables are staying plugged in. You won't have to actually plug them in. The AV team will do that. Yeah, Michelle?
Well, and then the other support task for the meeting room volunteers is the kind of the online support. So those trying to tune in or tuning in virtually will need to have another volunteer kind of focusing on that task within each room as well.
Yep. Asking questions that the virtual attendees have asked virtually in chat, saying those out loud for an in-person speaker. Hey, Michelle, Bert on the line has a great question. Can you answer this? That kind of a thing. So job requirements are being able to pivot, or being able to work alongside us as we're building this event together. Yeah. And I know that there's 2 things in the chat related to finances, and we'll get to both of those. So hold on, those are 2 slides ahead from here. So lodging this year is going to be the conference. The in-person conference is going to be hosted at the Dallas-Fort Worth Airport Marriott. Don't let the word airport hotel fool you. It's actually a really cool hotel. And we're excited to be hosting it kind of in the center of the two of the Metroplex. Lodging is going to be a separate phone call website this year. So in the past, you have major annual meeting, registration, and hotel all in the same website, and it's going to look a little bit different this year. So just keep your eyes out for that as we get closer to launching registration. That's going to be a little bit different. Help us to translate that for some of your chapter members. But please don't call the hotel yet. One of the things that we're thinking through, so the hotel has these rooms on hold for us, so there's no worry about them booking up rooms. Don't worry about that. We have a room block held at this point. Big old thunder outside. We have a hotel room block held, so please don't worry about losing the number of rooms or losing any rooms at the hotel yet. But some of the things that Michelle and I are thinking through as we're going towards this year's meeting is that we may have to, at some point, limit the capacity for in-person registrants. And we're keeping our options open as things are changing on weekly and monthly basis here. So if we do have to limit the number of in-person registrants based off of maybe state agency or local government guidelines, all of that, which would mean that we would have to limit the total number of people on site potentially, which would limit folks from creating lodging. If you don't get to be an in-person, or don't get to be, if we have to limit the number of in-person registrants, you don't want to be zooming in from your hotel room if you have to be a virtual attendee. So just hold on for just a little bit longer. Please ask your members to bear patient with us as we're working through this planning for this hybrid approach. Again, we are working with the hotel constantly to make sure that that block is still held, that we are meeting our contract obligations for our lodging. So hang tight with us just a little bit longer. Anything there, Michelle? Okay, so I told you we'd get to the financials. Okay, so here's just some of our notes on the financials for this year's annual meeting. And one of the things that we want to make sure that you keep in mind is that our annual meeting is a training event. It does not provide any financial support to the state program. It is a cost recovery based event. So it is not a profit generating event for the Master Naturalist program. It is a training event hosted at cost recovery costs, which means that we anticipate breaking even with our registration. Our registration fees, officially, we will have these by mid-July for you guys, but we wanted to share internally with our chapter leaders some of the ranges and some of our thoughts and our planning processes here. Our in-person cost has ranged from about $300 to $350 in the past, and I'd anticipate it being within that range again this year. Our virtual, however, is unknown. Last year, we were able to keep our virtual costs at a pretty low rate. I believe it was $55 last year. It will likely have to increase this next year with additional technology that it will take to go hybrid. So we don't have a range for this year's virtual attendee cost. But do know that it will likely be an increase from last year based off of additional tech needs.
And just a note on that, the in-person cost, typically that $300 to $350 registration costs covers everything aside from your lodging for the entire event. So within that cost, we try to get you all your meals, everything needed, everything for you to be able to attend advanced training sessions, so that you don't have to spend any other money during the weekend while you're there, aside from if you wanted to bid on something for silent auction or other, and then if you wanted to buy other things that we've had for sale there. So, but it covers your meals. Coffee, typically that registration cost covers your meals and covers everything related to the advanced training content of the meeting.
Yep. And then virtual nature venture / fundraiser. And I saw that Sharon added a great note in the chat there that the Cross Timbers chapter is taking on a 2021 version of last year's virtual nature venture. And that will be our fundraiser silent auction type event this year. And it sounds like they've got some great directions as they're working to plan that. And Sharon, I'd love to put you on the spot next month and have you share some more information next month. And then lastly, vendors, and then I'll also answer Carolyn's question here. So vendors and the AgriLife bookstore are probably two things that we're going to drop this year. We've got to make a decision on that which we can carry and that which we can let go, or we can move in a slightly different direction. And so we will most likely, as of today and in our planning directions today, not host vendors at an in-person event. And probably not have the AgriLife bookstore attending this year's in-person event. That won't mean that we won't have gear available for purchase online from our online bookstore. And I hope I answered that question well for you there, Carolyn, but we will have that stuff available online. Great question, Emily. So right now our plan is to not have vendors and to move into a virtual direction with vendors and a bookstore. Emily's question about textbook pickup, I don't know, Emily, I hadn't thought that far ahead yet. So thank you for putting that on my radar. We'll have to think through that one. That's always been a big help.
And just to note that the idea behind this year's event is that we need to make this as simple and easy as possible, return to normal, in not knowing what the social distancing guidelines will be at that time. We need to do more with less right now.
Yeah. Okay, and then sponsorships, and hopefully this will answer Nancy's question in the chat from earlier. We will be requesting sponsorships again. Addison has this up on the website now, and Michelle has dropped it into the chat. So please help us to circulate sponsorships and this request for sponsorships. Things like the President's Meeting Luncheon, which could range from $2,000 to $3,000 to meals. Being a meal sponsor could range from $4,000 to $6,000 or $7,000. Sponsoring a break at $1,000, or registration bags at $500. So there's different ranges and there's different things that can be sponsored. And so I'm going to go back one slide to remember our annual meeting is a training event and provides no financial support to the state program. Sponsorships help us to lower the overall registration cost. So if we can save on having to, if we can have somebody sponsor this, then we don't have to charge registration for that part of the meeting, and it helps to lower the overall registration cost for the event. So that's where sponsorships filter too. So again, just help us to circulate that. We have not sent it out to the email listserv yet, and we'll get that out in the next week or so. And chapters can be sponsors as well. Okay, so that was, I don't know, 10 slides worth of annual meeting that we talked through there. And hopefully this gives you guys an idea of the direction that we're planning with this hybrid event and the kind of our thought process is behind some of this. But I want to ask that question of what are you getting asked, so we can start building that material to give to you guys. Are there questions that you're hearing from your members about this year's meeting that they are wanting to know as they're preparing their travels for this fall? The cost. Yeah. So Nancy, we'll have that cost hopefully by mid-July. All right. Anything else?
I was answering chats and stuff, but did you describe what the sponsorship of a meal or break would entail.
Yes, sort of. So sponsoring like the President's Luncheon would be about $2,000 to $3,000 and would include recognition in the program, on the virtual hub, on our website, as well as a thanks at the event. Sponsoring meals, depending on total number of registrants, could vary between $5,000 to $10,000, again, just depending on the total number of in-person attendees at meals, and would include signage on the tables and at the front of the room and on the agenda, websites, things like that. And I think somebody said that registration or that sponsorships, again, help to lower that registration cost. And the sooner that we have an idea for sponsorships helps us in determining those final registration costs as well. Michelle, any others?
There's a question in the chat asking about if we will be able to provide a scholarship again this year, or a partial scholarship. And I don't think we will be able to do that this year. The one thing I will try to do, and we haven't looked at the finances on those yet, but the one thing we will try to do is make the registration fee as affordable as possible for everybody.
Emily said that knowing what the field sessions will look like will help members to attend. Same with both who the speakers are for the technical sessions as well. And that's something that we're putting y'all to work, helping us to share that call for proposals for speakers. Okay, and then I saw a question from North Texas asking how they can volunteer and help. Right now, the biggest help that I need volunteering is spreading the word for that call for proposals, getting your members excited for the video contest, nominating your advisors, getting your project fair submissions together, doing some of the online work and networking work right now would be helpful. And then again, just please, we'll keep the annual meeting on our agenda for the next couple of months, obviously, for these chapter presidents meetings. If you have questions that you're hearing from your membership in multiple questions and kind of themes of questions, please send those along so we can make sure we can get some of those answers pulled together. Okay, and we are getting close to that 1 hour mark, and I've got like 3 slides left, so we're doing good today. One of the questions that we talked about last month, but we put it off to this month, was the photo repository at the state level. And I wanted to ask, how does your chapter currently collect and store your images? This is something that we're interested in looking into, providing a state, if the cost is right, a statewide repository for archiving photos, images, cataloging them so that they're available for pulling for awards or for newsletters or for recognition.
Mary Pearl, it's Betsy.
Hey, Betsy.
We have tried a couple of things, like Bert said, Flickr, we use Dropbox, we use our Facebook. And to be honest, we've gone back and asked and also looked at usage of that archive, and it's rare. People think, oh, we got to have all our pictures, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, well, the same people post the same, are doing the same thing all the time. And it's rare that anybody goes back and looks at them. Once in a while, we'll go back. If we have, say, recently we had a chapter member pass away, and we, all of us dug through and found some photos, and we had them on our Dropbox account. But in general, I don't see that it works great for us. Yeah, I mean, Bert, I know what you're saying. Presentations are great, but everybody comes up with their own.
Yeah, and that's kind of where we found ourselves too, Betsy, is that sometimes it's easier to just find the ones that you've seen most recently, but then it's in those rare moments, as Bruce mentioned, where when you have a presentation that you need to do and you're looking for that one specific photo, or you have a chapter anniversary, or in the unfortunate case of a member passing and you need some photos pulled from the archive. So that's kind of the idea behind looking into this photo repository concept, is if we had a central place where chapters could contribute their photos, store them, catalog them, not Flickr. I don't personally like Flickr at all. And I don't find it user-friendly in the least, but something like Flickr where it's functionally able to categorize and folder photos by events or dates or chapters, and then you can pull them off as needed for whatever you may need.
But that gets back to storage management and who's going to do that. And
Yeah,
you know,
we have the same questions.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of the people are saying, Facebook, we use our newsletter. We've got, you know, we archive our newsletters when we do have the history from Facebook. And so I don't know, personally, I don't think the state should be spending the little amount of money you have for things on something like this. I'd rather you spend it on more teaching tools or something else than storing pictures.
All right, thank you, Betsy. Anybody else have thoughts on, there's a lot in the chat, so thank you guys so much for sharing your thoughts in here. Okay. Are there any other questions? Excuse me, questions for our roundtable discussion period? We've got just a few minutes left. Oh, excuse me, y'all. It's raining again. Okay. What we'll do with the photo repository idea is I do have a test run with a company that I've been interested in recently, and I'm gonna run through that test run, and then Michelle and I and the state team will talk about the financials, and then we'll present that idea to you guys next month as well. Okay, and then with that wraps up our monthly meeting for May. Our next month's meeting will be at the end of June. Keep in mind, things start to shift towards the end of the year with our monthly meeting schedule. We will have one summer meeting where July and August will be captured together on August 9th. September will be back to normal as the last Monday of the month. October will be at the annual meeting, tentatively holding that Thursday, October 21st date at lunchtime for us. And then November and December move up a week so that it's not to interfere with the holidays.
There's one question in the chat regarding when the next new class coordinators training or call will be held, and we don't have that scheduled yet.
Don't have that scheduled. Can put that on the agenda to talk about at our Michelle and I's next planning meeting. All right, anything else, y'all?
And then, so the other thing I'm seeing in the chat is there seems to be some people suggesting now each chapter manage their own, decide and on their own chapter folder way to have photos. But the one thing that I think Mary Pearl and I need to hear from you too is your chapters are getting a lot of great photos. And from a programmatic standpoint, we want to be able to use those with you through marketing and identity for the program. So think about too how the best ways to work with you on that.
Yeah, so for example, if there are press releases where I'll get a request from my state agency, my leadership administration, and they'll say, we will want to run a Master Naturalist picture on our social media today at 3 o'clock. I need a picture of a Master Naturalist in a face mask with a smiling kid and a snake. it'll be that specific sometimes. And I have to find that photo. And my current archive of photos that I've pulled from you guys is things that we've pulled from previous contests. We've pulled from social media submissions. We've pulled from anniversaries, the window wall that we did in 2018, things that you
Or
guys
your
have
Facebook
sent,
posts.
yeah, things that you guys have sent to us. And the things that you have sent to us sometimes are on specific events or days or things. And they may not match that very specific request from my administration that says person with a snake. I need that picture now. So that's kind of where we're going with that photo repository. Totally agree, Betsy. There's a person that has to then manage. There's time to managing that. There's a cost associated. What that looks like is something that we've got to figure out.
Do you want to explain the website?
No.
The email addresses or the address?
No.
So what should chapters be doing with
Yeah,
the old?
and so we're done with the official end of the meeting is officially done, but I'll answer. This is just the discussion time. So if you do need to go, I realize that we're past the hour mark, and appreciate your time today. Bob asked the question about txmn.org versus txmn.tamu.edu. They're supposed to all direct to the same place. The txmn.org is supposed to redirect automatically. When our web team was employed last summer, everything was functional. Somebody on the back end with this new web team that we've got at AgriLife flipped the wrong switch in the last 2 months, and it no longer redirects, and there's nobody employed anymore that that runs that. So I have to figure out how to do that on my own. So I'm working on it.
But in moral of the story is go ahead and go in and bookmark,
Rebookmark.
rebookmark the txmn.tamu. What is it?
txmn.tamu.edu.
Site.
Yeah. All right, folks. Any other questions before we stop today's meeting? Bert, I saw your head shaking. I was going to email you next. It's just, it's an auto redirect thing, but it has to be programmed on the back end of WordPress, and I have to do it for every site. I don't like WordPress this week. Mary Jane, the txmn.tamu.edu website is our state website.
Drop it in the chat.
Thank you. txmn.org should function, and it will forever remain our website. txmn.org, we own that website, it's ours, and it should auto direct to our new look. But right now the auto direct is broken. So you won't have to remove that from posters. That's always a big fear of chapters is, hey, we have txmn.org printed on our posters. Don't worry about that. We own that. We're not getting rid of that. But there's something on the back end that I have to fix. All right, folks, if that's it, thank you guys. Have a fantastic day. Don't forget all of the good things are coming. It's going to be a great year.
Thank you for your time.
All right, bye y'all.
Thank you for yours.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.
Christine, I just saw your chat about training for the website. Not currently. There's currently no WordPress training scheduled for the website.
So I just got to ask if, is there anybody that can look up my password if I can't find that?
Yes, ma'am. I can actually. I have network admin access to your website. If you'll send me an email, I can do that. I know I can.
Well, I don't know if I need it yet because I'm talking with our, the person who did our website, who's a member that's not very active except for doing the website. And she updated some things, and then I asked her to teach me how to do the certain things I want to do. So I may not need it if I can find it, but I haven't looked for it yet, but I just want to make sure. Thank you.
Sounds good. Yes, ma'am.
Mary Pearl, did you find anything out about payments from last year's annual meeting that we still owe you from the Panhandle?
Yeah, they had said everything was in order and they had sent you everything. As I was last told.
Okay, can they resend another bill? Because I've never seen a bill for it.
I'm so sorry, Dan.
Like I said, we just need to pay you.
Yeah, no, I thought that the business office, the business office had gotten that all settled, and I apologize.
Oh, it's not your fault. We owe you money and I want to pay you.
And I owe you 2 sandwich boards.
Yeah. Where are they at?
They're in my car in Giddings, Texas. And I have looked into a Parks and Wildlife shuttle, and I've looked into an AgriLife shuttle to go north, and nobody's going that direction.
Where'd you say it is again?
In Giddings, so just outside of Austin.
Okay. I guess I just need to make a trip to Austin.
Or I can meet you halfway one day if we could find a day. I am going to be up in.
I've got people. We've got people going up there in June sometime.
I'll be in Irving in July.
Okay. In July, on a weekend or during the week?
Week.
Okay. I might meet you up there in July in Irving.
Okay.
I have some family in Plano.
Okay, I'll send you an email with my dates then.
And that might, like I said, that might be but I still owe you money, so.
I'll make sure.
From last year.
And we've got staff, I just learned, going to the Panhandle in June. So if there's a way.
We have lots of Parks and Wildlife people up here.
Yeah.
And AgriLife people too, so.
I'll start that email chain, Michelle, and Dan, I'll start that so that we can get that to you.
Yeah, I know it's not a ton of money, but it's still money that,
I
we
know.
could use for something else.
Absolutely.
So.
All
Okay,
right.
thank you very much for all y'all do.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Dan.
Michelle and Mary Pearl, I just uploaded the notes to Slack to both of you guys.
Great. Thank you, Bert. Appreciate it. And Bert, I'm gonna, I've got to ping my folks one more time on the website stuff, and then it's just it's an auto direct on the back end, but I don't want, I have 2 WordPress accounts right now, and they're supposed to totally close out that one WordPress account so that so it's all within one, and we don't have to have the auto direct anymore.
Okay.
And that's my preference. If we have to have the auto direct, then I may ping you to get your help.
Sure, I may have some good news. I just tried txmn.org/coastal, which has been broken for a long time and is working now. So,
Good.
yep. And real quick, what WordPress